I welcome you all to this webinar. This is the second in the series. We are having our presenter in the house. Our presenter, Ima, will be speaking from Colorado in the United States. Ima has been managing Moodle site for about 9 years and has recently expanded into the consulting field. She currently administers 3 Moodle implementations and provides support for several other companies. Ima also presents at various Moodle conferences and offers consulting on Moodle implementation in business and education. Ima is also the Vice President of the newly formed Moodle Users Association. Without doubt, we have someone who is passionate about Moodle in the house, and I will hand over the microphone to her now while she makes her presentation. Ima?
Thank you, and good afternoon to you in Nigeria. Here in Colorado, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, so I'm just starting my day, and you guys are coming to the end of yours. So I appreciate you taking the time to join me as I kind of try and give you a brief introduction to the wonderful world of Moodle. And the introduction is right. I'm very passionate about this software. I've been using it for several years, and I've seen it just become better and better and better as it moves along. And the wonderful part of it is that we can use it for free, and that seems like that's something that's going to stay for a long time, and it can be a great benefit for teachers. So we are going to jump in fairly quickly. I'm going to try and talk for about half of the hour, maybe a little more or less. I tend to get off track once in a while, so please bring me back if I do. But I want to leave a lot of time for questions, because I think as we go through this, you'll probably have a lot of questions. And I would ask that you would just type them in the chat. And that way at the end, I will just come back and address all the questions at once, and we'll hopefully get anything answered that you have put in there. So what we're going to start by looking at today is a new service that Moodle has started called Moodle Cloud. Hopefully you can all see my screen here, and it's located literally at moodlecloud.com. And what this allows, it allows teachers just to come in and set up a single course, well, actually multiple courses, but you can have up to 50 students. And you can only use about 200 megabytes of file space, but you can get in and really play. And so the idea was today to show you how to just kind of sign up really quickly, set up your new course, and then get in and start talking about content and the best kind of content to use with your students, and to go from there. So I'm going to kind of start right here. It's going to be kind of like one of those cooking courses. I'm going to show you the steps, and then we're going to jump over to my site that's already done. So just like they always like, well, I have something in the oven. Well, I already have a site set up, but I want to take you through the process first. So we will get started. So when you come to moodlecloud.com, the first thing you will see is this offering of different options here. And what we want to look at is the free option, because as teachers, I know most of us have very little budget, and so we love anything that doesn't cost us anything. So you'd come here and literally just click on the Get Started button, which will take you to this page. It says, let's get started. So right from here, you can create a new account. And just like many websites, creating a new account is just the normal steps. You have to put in your first name, your last name, email address twice, your cell phone number, your time zone. These are optional. Anything with a star is required, but for example, you could put in the name of your organization, what kind of organization it is, address and stuff. They do want to know your country, so that is required. So I'm just going to fill this out just to kind of show you how it goes along, and I'm going to use a different email address than my last one just because I already have an account here. And just going to put a fake phone number in there. I'm not going to fill any of this. I'm going to go right down here, and I'm in the United States, so I shall select that. And then at the bottom you have two checkboxes. You have to agree to the Moodle Cloud Terms of Service. You do not have to receive Moodle Cloud news, tips, and updates. Now, if you want that, great. If you're like me and you get way too many emails as it is, I always leave these ones unchecked. And it's a good rule to live by anytime you sign up for anything on the internet. They're always trying to send you more emails, and I always try and avoid that. So when you click on Next, it allows you to give your site a name. And it also allows you to select where you would like it hosted. Normally you will select the area of the world that is closest to you. So for Nigeria, I'm going to guess maybe Ireland is closest. But please forgive me if I'm totally off base on that. But I'm thinking you're probably closer to Europe than anywhere else. So you can call it whatever you want. I can call it Emma Richardson, just my name. And it says, yay, my site name is available. So once you get the green bar here, that means you can have that site name. I'm going to select United States because obviously that's where I am. And I'll click on the next button. So now they've actually sent a verification code to my cell phone number, which I put in a fake one, so I'm not going to get it. And this is where I'm going to stop because I actually didn't want to set this site up. But for you, you'll put in a good phone number. They will text a code to that, and then you'll need to put in that verification code here. Once you put that in, it's going to take you to your site to set up. And so just like the cooking shows, we're going to jump over here to a site that's already set up. And so this is what a new Moodle site would look like on Moodle Cloud. Now I understand that in the future you're going to have your own Moodle site there at the university, I'm presuming. And so it's probably going to look a little different to this, but this should still give you the basics of how to get around and how to get started. And it's a very good idea to come to Moodle Cloud first, set up a course, and just play so that you're used to just familiar with how it works and how you get along. Now the first time you log in, you will actually get a nice little user tour. And it will pop up like this. Are you guys seeing those pop-ups, I'm hoping? I'll just double check that on my sharing screen because I know, yep, okay, that it did come up. And so this will give you a little tour, and it's a good idea just to click through it because it will show you a few places of how to find things. So first it'll tell you that there's a navigation icon up here in the top left-hand corner. And clicking on that will show you a bunch of links on the left-hand side of the page. And if you want it to go away, you just click on it again and it will hide. Click on Next, and that's all it has to show you on this page. When you first log in, you will see this Introduction to Moodle site, and it's a good thing to read through really quickly. It'll give you a few tips on how to get around the Moodle site. So it'll tell you just kind of a quick welcome, where to find things, building your course, changing how things look, and getting more help. And there's some good links here to the Moodle.org website, which has wonderful, wonderful help services there. So not only is there documentation on about everything Moodle, there's also a very active forum, and there's a lot of us that are in that forum all day, every day, just trying to help people like yourselves with problems. So always start with the documentation, and here's Moodle docs. just to give you an idea. So we've got all this documentation on how to get started, how to manage your course, adding activities, everything I'm going to go through today, you can find help on this site. So it's a good one to bookmark. And there's also the forums on the same site, are community forums, and there are very, very many forums. They have them actually in different languages. I'm not sure how far we get. The most active one is the Moodle in English, and so I think we have the majority of it, though the Spanish one is actually fairly active too if anyone speaks Spanish. But all these forums here, you can just come here, you can search your question, and if not, you can post a question and people will jump in and help you. Okay. When you're in your new Moodle site, there's a few things that will help you just navigate around very quickly. So let me go back to the home page. You will notice that this link up here will have the name of your Moodle site. So for example, if I'd set that one up called Emma Richardson, it would say Emma Richardson, might say Moodle site. I forget how I set this one up. But whatever you choose as the name for your site, you will see it right here. This is, as it mentioned in that little brief user tour, is a navigation page, and it will come up with stuff specific for whatever page you're on. So if you're within one of your courses, it's going to have some different links on this side as it does when we're just on the main page of the site. Anything in orange in this specific site is a link. So you'll notice when you hover over it, you can click on things, all kinds of things. The other menu that's important to see is up here in the top right-hand corner by your name. If you click on the arrow here, it will give you a bunch of links that are specific to you. So, for example, if you had grades, all your grades would show here. But here's your profile. Your dashboard gives you an overview of what courses you are linked to. So if you're teaching several courses, this courses tab right here will list them. So I have the Introduction to Moodle course, which everyone has, and I set up a course today or a couple of days ago for this training today called Moodle Training. And so that's always found just in your dashboard. Profile lets you update your email address, anything you need to change. You can upload a photo, which I very much encourage because I think it's really nice for your teachers or for teachers and students to all have photos so you can kind of see each other's faces. Especially if you're doing a lot online, it's nice to have a visual representation of who you're talking to or who you're working with. So I'm going to click back here up here just to go back to the main page. And then we're going to jump into this Moodle training course, and I'm going to show you a little bit of how to get around within a course. So this is a basic course page, and I'm actually, forgive me, I'm going to show you how it'll show when you first arrive. As I mentioned, now you will see that this menu has a lot of different links in it, and these are all specific to the course. So if you have students enrolled, the Participants tab is going to take you to look at those students. You can assign badges, grades, and this is going to be your course layout of how you section things up. So every course page can be set into different topics. You actually have the option of how to look at your topics. You can make a weekly format where it will automatically create a topic for every week if you want, or you can just have a topic format and you can decide how many different areas on your course page you would like. Now, as you're setting up your course, there's a few things I always recommend people to think about. Firstly, always think about it from the student view. And so when I say that, think about what would make it pleasing for a student to look at and easy for a student to navigate. So Moodle is very easy to bring in lots of resources and lots of great information. But sometimes people get a little carried away and you'll come to this page and you'll just have to scroll and scroll and scroll forever because there's so much on the page. And sometimes students really struggle with that, and so they kind of get lost. And so on this page, I'm going to walk you through a few examples of ways that you can avoid that. The first thing you want to do when you're in a course as a teacher is look at this little icon up here in the top right-hand side. And this also is your link to managing your course. So the first thing you want to look for is a button called Turn Editing On. And that was the one I actually just turned off, because when you come to your page first, this is how it will be. Turning Editing On will do this. It will basically now allow you to edit all the content in your course. And this area is the whole content area right here. So you'll see you now have links to add activities or resources. You have little icons here which allow you to drag stuff around. So you can actually drag topics around. So if I wanted to drag this topic up, I can just drag it just like that and it'll move, and now it's in a different location. You can do the same with activities and resources. I can just drag this down to here and it's right there. Makes it a very easy way to move things. So let's look at adding content before. I know I kind of started with moving content before we've added any, but let's look at adding some content. And if we click on this, you'll see one by each section. So basically, you should start with the section that you want to add content to and click on this. And you will see that there is a whole host of stuff. So now activities are basically things that students are going to interact with. They're going to respond. They're going to upload assignments. They might take a quiz. It might be a forum where there's a discussion posted for them to do. It's something that the students have to respond to. The resources down at the bottom are things that you as a teacher just want to share with your students. And there's a lot of resources here. You can do books, which we're going to talk about a little bit, because books are very great way of laying out your content. A basic file, you can add a folder full of files. Content packages imported from other systems, you can find those. A label is just something to put on the page. I'll show you an example of a label in a minute. A page is like a separate web page, which you can put any kind of content in. And a URL is basically a link to another website. Often we use the assignment the most for activities, but forums are very popular too for online discussions. But every one of these, if you click on them, will give you a detail on the right-hand side of what that activity is. And they can be very detailed, as you can see on the forum here. There's a lot of notes here. So it's a good idea just to kind of click through everything and go, okay, what am I wanting to do? And what might be the best tool to use that? Because there's a lot of tools here. Before we look at an activity, I want to talk about adding content. So now the easiest way to add content to your course page is to open up Windows Explorer, or I'm on a Mac, so I have Finder, so forgive me for it looking just a little bit different. But if you think of this as a Windows Explorer where your File Explorer on your computer, you can come in here and just find documents, and you can literally just drag them across, and you'll see this little box pops up that says Add Files here, and when you let go, it just automatically uploads it to the page, and it's right there. Super easy, super quick. If you get it uploaded but you want to change the title of the name, you just do that right here. You can call it whatever you want, and it says at the top, you just press enter when finished. And now it's got a new title. Students can click on that. Oops, I apologize. I didn't turn my phone down. Students can click on that and see whatever you wanted to share with them. Now, another thing to think about when you're adding files is that students have a lot of mobile devices now, and I'm presuming that's the same there as it is here. And so you want to make sure that whatever file you upload is easy for them to open. We find that PDF files open well on pretty much any device, whereas a Word document, or if you're on a Mac, a Pages document is terrible. Never put a Pages document up there because very few people can open it. Even some PowerPoint presentations, I know we all love PowerPoint and we like to put PowerPoint presentations up there. Within PowerPoint, there's actually an option to print slides with a place for notes and export that as a PDF. That is a better solution sometimes to upload because then students can use that as a note-taking tool as well. So I always try and stress with my teachers that PDF files are really a great way to go. However, it's very, very easy, as I mentioned earlier, to start dragging stuff across, and it's so easy, and it's like, oh, look, I can put all these files over here, and pretty soon your page just gets longer and longer and longer and longer, and your students, they come to your course, and all they see is this huge long list of documents, and it can sometimes be a little overwhelming for them. And so I really recommend using the book resource, which you saw under here at the bottom here. Oops, right here is the book. What the book resource does is it allows you basically to create a book within Moodle. So here's one that I pulled over from a Spanish course. And so instead of 5 separate different pages, the book puts everything together really nicely and cleanly, just like a little digital book. And so instead of this being one page, and then we've got another page, and this would all be separate links on the front of your course, you just get one clean book that people can scroll through. And you can put anything in this book. You can, let me look at editing a page. So if I click on this over here and to an edited page, you basically have a nice little place here. You can copy and paste from your Word documents, from your PDFs. You can copy and paste it right in here. You can put in pictures, videos. You can put links to other files. You can put in tables. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do on a book page. And the really nice thing about this is if for another course or later on you decide you want to change something, it's changeable right here in Moodle. Instead of having to find that original document on your computer, convert it to a PDF, and then re-upload it to Moodle, it's all right here, and you can just come in here and edit it right here. Just cancel out of there. And so I highly recommend using a book for anything that's more than about 2 or 3 pages, just to keep your course nice and clean, and to really help your students with the navigation. The other benefit to having a book is Moodle has completion settings, and you can actually set up your course so as a student moves through it, you can see when they've completed certain activities. If you have a book that they have to see that book to complete it, they actually have to look at every page. And so then you know that they've been through every page of your content and they've looked at every page, because in the nice little completion report that you can see, it will actually show you, yes, they've completed this book. If they haven't read every page, it won't show as completed. So that's another benefit to using a book. Let's see. Let's go back to add in. Oh, I mentioned a label earlier, which was, it's another resource. This right here is a label. This is another way to make things really nice and clean on your course page, is you can kind of make things look really pretty. So if I go to edit for this label, and this is how you, sorry, my clicking is not working very well here today. There we go. You go into edit settings. You'll see how I set this up. And so here I just used a little table. It's the same access that you can use everywhere. Made a little table. I put my headings here. I used some pretty icons down below. I just Googled these and found them, uploaded them as pictures to the site. And so for my students, in my primary site, we have a lot. We use video conferencing to connect them to class, and then we record everything just like we're recording today, and this is where my students would access their recordings. I have a lot of courses that this is all they come there for. They just come to connect and to look at the recordings. And so for me, it's beneficial for them to just have that big and clear right up at the front top of the screen. And so this is just a nice way to do it. And then on this icon right here, I actually have it linking, and if I click on the little link icon up here, you can see where that links to. And so in this place, it actually just links to another page in the site, but it just makes it a nice graphical representation of that. So I'm a big fan of trying to make your course look graphically pleasing and not overwhelming for students. So instead of lots of areas like this with just list upon list upon list upon list of documents that they have to click through, a nice simple book or a nice label can really help you in your course page setup. Now obviously I'm going through things really quickly today, and as you get started there'll be a lot of learning process. And it will take you a while to just kind of get used to how to work with Moodle. And this is why Moodle Cloud is so great, because you can jump in and practice. I want to encourage you to, don't get frustrated, don't give up, and don't think it's too much work. Because what I will tell you is that all the time that you put in to the setup of your course space on Moodle, you can keep that and reuse it again and again and again. So if you're teaching a section of, say, I don't know, history this year, and you spend all this time setting up this course and you make it beautiful, and you're like, oh man, that was just so much hard work. The good news is that next year when you teach that same course, you can just export the course and import it into the new section, and it's all set up for you. So it's really worth taking a little extra time on the front end and trying to get everything into Moodle where it's editable in Moodle and just working well, because that time is going to come back to you next semester. And that way you can just reload the old course, go in and make any little changes you might want along the way, and just find it, very easy to do there. So now we've looked at resources, let's look briefly at some of the activities. So if I go back into add an activity or resource, I'm going to start with the assignment, because the assignment is probably one of the most used activities, and it's basically allowing you to collect work through the Moodle site. And you'll see there's lots of little bit of help there. There's a link to more help at the bottom, but we're just going to walk through really quickly how to add an assignment. So I'm going to click on Add. And this will just give you a feel for how to add things in Moodle anyway. Anywhere you see this little icon, sometimes it's a red star on some sites, but for this one it's a exclamation mark. That means that that is a required field. So firstly, you have to have a name for your assignment. So we could say this is essay number 1. If you want to have a description so that when the student clicks on it, they see a description of that assignment, you could put it here. It's not required, but you can do that. You can also opt to display that description on the course page. Again, I would caution you to not have a huge long description here and then display it on the course page, because it's going to make your course page very busy. You can also upload files. So for example, if you had a rubric that you were grading by, or you wanted to, you have a document with some detailed explanations on what they should be doing in this essay question, you could just upload that file right there. And you can see, once again, you can drag and drop the file to add them. Occasionally some browsers might have problems with this bit. If you ever do, there's always a little button right here, and you can just open this, choose file, and it's going to search your computer just like a regular file upload on any website would. I'll close out of that for now. You have the options for availability here. So you can say, well, it's not going to open until such and such a date. I'm going to make it due on this date. If you want to enable a cutoff date, you can say, well, even though it was due on the 11th, I'm going to cut it off on the 14th because I have 2 students that are always late turning things in, and I don't necessarily want to dock them. You can also add a remind me to grade by date, and this will show up on your dashboard. So if you do it like a week after a turn in, I always think that's a little long. I'm like, if they're turned in, I should be being reminded to grade by, but it depends how many essays you're getting. If it's going to take you a week to grade, then that's a good thing. What this will do is will show a notification on the dashboard saying, okay, you need to be grading this today or by today. As we move down, you'll see you have an option for submission types. So you can have students upload a file, or you can actually have them just type online text, or you can do both. If you do the online text, there's a word limit which you can enable. That's just for the online text. If you have file submissions enabled, you can say how many files they're allowed to upload. Is it just 1? Is it just 2? And you can limit the size of the file. So on Moodle Cloud, it's actually already limited to 1 megabyte, but you can make it even smaller if you want, and that just is your personal preference. You can also say what file types you're going to accept. This is great because if you limit it to, say, for example, a PDF, that way you know that you will be able to open it and you won't have students uploading strange file formats that then you don't know what to do with. So sometimes it's a good idea to put in here. And if we click on this little thing right here, it'll tell you kind of how to lay that out. So you can just do file extensions, which is normally what I would do. I would do .pdf, and I might even do a .docx, which is the new Word format. But again, that's totally up to you. You don't have to put anything in there, but you can. Feedback types. This means that you can make comments on their work, which is nice because we always want to try and give feedback to our students and try and give it back in a timely way. You can also opt to give feedback files. So for example, if they're submitting something, you might want to write, you might be one of those people that likes to make notes on their essay, scan it back in and upload it as a feedback file. Or maybe you have a grading rubric that you want to upload that. So you can select to give feedback files, and this is something the student will see when you've graded their deal. Submission settings, this is just whether you want them to be able to resubmit things. If there's a submit statement, you just, in interest of time, I'm just going to tell you to look at all the little question marks here. You can have students submitting groups. You can notify people when they're submitted, which is good. But the main point is you probably want to set a grade. And so this is where you would set the maximum grade. Once you're done, and realistically, you can probably just, as you get used to it, you can create these pretty quickly because you won't need to go through all the settings. You'll quickly learn which settings you want and which you don't. If you just go to save and return to the course, we will see that here is the assignment right here. And if you click on that as a teacher, you will have an option to view all submissions and to grade. Obviously, we have no participants, so we have no submissions. But if somebody had submitted, it would say, you know, there's 3 submissions, and if you haven't graded them already, they would show as needs grading under here. So as a teacher, you would just go back and click on here. So I've gone over a lot of information very quickly. I would like to open up to see if anyone has any questions at this point. I'm trying to see if I see any. I don't see any in the chat as yet. But does anyone out there have any questions right now?
Emma, I think, are you done with your presentation?
Well, I can go on a little bit more, but it just depends if people have questions or not. I would like to address those.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So as you're looking at your course, I recommend you just to play with these. Like in your Moodle Cloud course, if you just come in and play, I would actually add every one of the activities and just kind of play around with it. The other thing I would do is I would create a student account and enroll a student to the course and then log in as that student and see how that student sees the course as you're playing around. There's just so many options in Moodle, it's impossible to cover them all without about a week-long session. So it's very good for you to come through and look at things. The quiz is a huge activity. It's very, very robust, and you can do wonderful things with the quiz. And so I do highly recommend you looking at that. I've done presentations on the quiz before, and it takes me an hour just to go through the Add a Quiz page and explain all the settings. But as I mentioned before on Moodle.org, there is a lot of great help there, and you can really find out some more in-depth help on how to set quizzes up, how to create questions, adding questions to the quizzes, and things like that. But that is a great way to do it. The other thing I'd like to show you briefly is how to add your course, just because obviously if you're going to jump into Moodle Cloud and set up an account, you should probably know how to start your course. So luckily from the main Moodle Cloud, your Moodle Cloud page, you will see this handy button at the bottom that just says Add a New Course. And so this is where you start. You just click on here. You will put in a full name. So we can say, let's go with my history analogy, history class. And the short name, and it will give you a little hint here. Oh, it just says missing short name. Oh no, there we go. This is shown in the navigation and used in the subject line of course email messages. So that's good to know. So when you're sending out a message, you want to know what that is. So we might just call it HIS 101. You can set up different categories. I only have the one here. Visibility. Sometimes when you have students in, you might hide your course initially while you're setting everything up and then go back and change it to visible. For now, I'm just going to leave it on show. You can say when the course starts. You can often start it in the future or in the past. If you want to put a summary in, just maybe put who taught it, taught by Richardson. You could put a little biography if you wanted. You can even add a file. Often people put images here, so you can put a nice little course image. And then again, you've got lots of options here. Those basic things right there, you can click save and it'll start the course. But you have topics format with 4 sections that I mentioned before, weekly format, which is great if you're doing it for a set time. You want a section every week. It'll automatically do that, and it'll automatically set it for the week you're in. Or actually the number of weeks you set here. You can opt to show 1 section per page. This makes the course page a little bit cleaner sometimes if you just do 1 section per page. But again, you just have to come through and play with all of this. You can force a language if you want, opt to show the grade book or not to students. This is where you set the file uploads. This I mentioned completion. You can enable completion tracking here. Groups is for grouping your students. Role renaming you probably won't have to mess with. But you might, perhaps you call students visitors or attendees, participants. Perhaps you call teachers instructors. You can actually change the name of the role, which will show up in some pages right here. But once you're done, you're just going to click on Save and Display. And the first thing it will do, it will ask you if you want to enroll users. Normally I'll just enroll myself as a teacher. And so if I click on this Enroll Users up here, I can assign the role teacher. I'm the only user right now, so I'm just going to enroll myself. And I click on Finish Enrolling, and this will refresh. You'll see now I'm the teacher. And when I proceed to course content, my course is all ready to go. And this is what your blanket course will look like. So from here you can start adding activities, dragging over files, creating books, chats, anything like that. The other thing that you see in the course right here is the announcements. And announcements will basically show for all the students. And so if you want to add announcements, you can add it right here. It's just like a basic forum. Just add a new topic. Say welcome to the course. We are happy to have you here. And post a forum. Oops, let me go back. And so now when people go in and look at the announcements, the first thing they'll see is the welcome to the course discussion, started by me. And so a good way to get some messaging out. And so I think that's about, without getting into anything really deeply, it's probably about all I have to cover with you today. Again, unless you have some specific questions that you would like answered, and then I am happy to answer any questions that you might have now. Okay, I mentioned, can we use only book to run an entire course? If not, can you mention a few other resources we can add? Oh yes, and I will show you what it looks like to the student after the course is set up. So, you actually can use a book to run pretty much the entire course. So I'll often use a book, and within the book I will link to activities in the course. And let me show you kind of how you can do that really quickly. So let me go back into here. So for example, this essay that I have, I can actually hide that from the course page. Hide. And I'm hoping this gives me the option. Oh, it doesn't. There's actually a new, there's a thing called stealth mode in Moodle. But what you could actually do is you could just move all your activities down to the bottom of the page. But then within the book, you could link specifically to that activity. So as they're walking through the book, and hopefully this makes sense, you could have a page, for example, that at the bottom it would say, please complete this activity now, and it would link to that activity. And you could just put a link in it right there. And so I've set up a lot of courses where literally that book has walked everyone through the course. The other thing you might look at, which is very interesting, is the lesson. And what the lesson does, it's very like the book, but it adds, and it takes a little bit more to set up, but it adds you the feature of being able to put in some questions, and depending on the answer to the question, it'll take them to different pages in the lesson. And so it's more like a lesson, obviously. It's more like a kind of sequential thing, but it has branching in it, whereas the book is really just more like sharing content and very sequential and step 1, step 2, step 3. If you turn editing off on your page, you will get a pretty quick view of what your student sees. So when your student comes in, this is what this page is going to look like. So you'll see this is where I dumped all the different files, and this is where the book is. And you see how much cleaner that is, and it's fairly obvious for students that they just have one place to click in. The other thing you should have up here is you have an option to switch role to, and you can select student. And this will really show you more of a student view. Now it is not perfect, but it will kind of give you an idea. And so if they click on this as a student, you will see that the student has an add submission button, and it will give them the options to actually pretend to add a submission. Now when you're using the, change my role to a student, it's not actually going to save that submission anywhere. It's not going to put grades in the grade book or anything like that, but it's just going to give you the rough view of what the student would see. And this is actually a big improvement, because it used to be that when you did this, you still didn't get the add submission button. So it's really nice to see that they've added that in there for the student role. Any other questions? And hopefully I answered the ones that were there. Best way to enroll a few of you into my Moodle site so we can have hands-on. Honestly, I think you would be better to set up your own, because you can set yourselves up as teachers, and then you're good to go. So, but if you need some, brief help, I'm happy to answer the odd email here and there. But also the Moodle forums are really there for you, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Emma. It's been wonderful. We really had a nice time taking us through all the stages. This meeting has been recorded, and the link will be sent to every participant so that they can sit back and watch how you took us through all the stages. I think then it will be possible for anyone who hasn't the opportunity to follow the steps, maybe because of the speed at which you are giving them out, they will be able to look at it again and be able to practice. There's no doubt that you have indeed giving us one of the best training that anyone could give on Moodle. I really do appreciate this. I hope that participants who may have questions or want to say something to Ima will be given the right to do so if they indicate by typing mic in the chat box, and we have the next 5 minutes to do that so that we can let Ima go and face other commitments.
And you are welcome.
So
You are right. I had to go through this very quickly just because of the limited time, but definitely happy to answer a few more questions. If you want, I will put my email in the chat box. And like I said, I'm welcome to answer a few questions. I can't answer every question every day, all day long, but I can definitely more than happy to answer a few about the presentation. I do recommend you go back through it because I did have to go very quickly today.
Okay, this is fantastic. Okay, I think we will have the opportunity to continue to interact with Ima after time with her email, and I'm sure, like she has said, she'll be happy to answer a few of our questions. She has already indicated that it is better for you to set up your course through the Moodle cloud and be able to practice on your own. Moodle is very vast, and it may be very difficult to say everything within the constraint of 1 hour. I really appreciate you. I haven't seen any of the participants indicate interest to speak with you, but in the next few seconds, if there's any, I'll give them mic. Otherwise, we'll close the session. Okay, Ima, thank you for your time. Ima works in Colorado as a consultant and has many years of experience. We really enjoy the time that you have with us, and we believe that when we beckon again, you will gladly help us. Ima offer this training free of charge to us, and we're so grateful for her time, and we do strongly appreciate the fact that she spared us this time. So Ima, I don't know if you may have some last to speak, to say to the participants before we close.
No, I would just finish with be patient. Moodle is a very, very large program, but it is capable of wonderful things. But always be mindful that you think of how your student is going to see it, and make sure that it's a way for you and your students to interact. So I think trying to make it engaging is the most important thing.
Thank you for your time, and do have a good morning.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.